Alright, artists in chat. Let's do a quick tutorial how to do this this thing. Whatever this is called. Alright, let's do it. I just experimented on this because so this is basically my first time doing something like this specific material. How to do this, you need to first understand the material itself. Obviously the material is just a net in its very basic form. It's just a net. So what you can do is you can use this stripe thingy. I believe any digital art program will have this function that allows you to like create this stuff. Okay, you can actually adjust how far the gap is in between the lines. But you can also just get a material. You can also use something like this. If you prefer something a bit more fine, a bit more textured, you can use something like this. Okay, so to do this, you need to consider the whole fabric as the crisscross thing, right? So let's try to add the crisscross. Yoink and yoink. Now you have the crisscross. To make it look 3D, you just have to deform it. You just have to use your liquify tool. You can use this function, or you can also use the shrink. You can use the expand. You can use the whatever this is, and then you can also use whatever this is. Basically, it allows you to deform the lattice or the net so that it kind of wraps around whatever subject you have, okay? But it's not that simple. It's not just simply deforming everything. You also have to consider what your subject is. So your subject in this case is a beautiful woman's arm, and you can kind of simplify an arm as a cylinder. So let's try to draw like a cylinder, like a very basic cylinder. There you go. You have to consider how it would wrap around the cylinder. And since it's a sleeve, it's like a sleeve type. If you do like a cross section of it, it's not just gonna wrap around like this, right? It's not just gonna wrap around like that. There's gravity. It's slightly loose. And also she's like laying down on the bed. So the fabric will kind of drape around the arm like this. Which is why you can see there's a little separation. There's a little space between the arm and where the fabric actually ends up, right? There's this nice space over there. Because it's not a fitted fishnet. If it's fitted, then I guess it kind of wraps around the skin. But in this case, it's not. And then it's just a matter of wrapping around the net. Lower the opacity a little bit so you can better see what's happening. What I normally do is I use this one where I can just drag the mesh. So at the sketch, I keep like an outline where I want the fabric to like end up. Something like that. And then I kind of just wrap around that. Like that, kind of like that. It's pretty simple to do. And then the part in the middle, you want to make it like a little bit bigger because it's closer to the camera. And then you're just gonna erase the excess stuff. I think this material would look very interesting in a VTuber model. Any VTuber out there, if you'd like to use this, feel free. Any VTuber artist out there. Alright, now it looks like a noodle. It looks like a noodle. Let's try to fill in the skin color just so it's easier to visualize. There we go. So we now have this mesh that goes on top of the arm. And then it would be better if we also have a little bit of the mesh going behind the arm. You're just gonna copy the mesh on front and then paste it on the back. But it's gonna overlap, so you're also gonna have to do a little bit of deformation for that. So just deform it as well, kind of like that. Now it looks like it's wrapping around the arm, not only on top of the arm, right? Can you visualize that? Yeah. CSP magic. Nah, this is not CSP exclusive. You can do it in pretty much any software. Yeah, there you go. Now, this is not yet finished because you also want to have a little bit of shadow because things are in light. Because if it's not in light, you won't be able to see it. That's just how life is. That's just how reality works. So obviously, the thing on top of one thing will cast a shadow below it, right? So you're just again gonna copy the lattice you have on top. And then you're gonna copy it on the skin. And you're gonna clip it on the skin, and then you're gonna use like a darker shade of skin because it's gonna be a shadow for the skin. And it basically looks like this. Like that. But right now, you can't see it because it's behind the mesh that's on top. So what you want to do is not just absent-mindedly move it like this. I mean, it looks like a shadow, but it kind of looks flat. Kind of looks flat because you're not considering the volume or like the form of the arm itself. What you want to do is also let the shadow not just crisscross around the arm. You also want the shadow to wrap around the arm, kind of like that, right? But of course, we're not gonna draw that manually because I am a lazy fish. So we're just gonna do the same technique we used in the fabric itself, right? You just use the very magical liquify tool again. Let it wrap around the arm. Yeah, just like that. Maybe move it a little bit depending on where the light is. You can just move it a little bit the direction of the light, right? So that's your shadow now. Now that's like the second way you can make it look convincing, right? But there will be another way we can make this even more convincing. Right now, this is just wrapping around like the outline we made. But fabrics doesn't work that way. Fabrics, they make like these creases, they make wrinkles and whatnot. So we also might want to add that. And how do we do that? We use liquify tool again. So for example, you want to add maybe like a crease that goes kind of like this. Maybe it's like folding like that, right? Maybe let's add like a little guide like that. So you also just use the same thing, just deform it along that crease. And if you remove the guide, you can see now that it's kind of following like a little flow, right? It's like slightly deforming inwards. It doesn't really look like it's actually a crease. So what you can do is you can add shadow on the fabric. And you basically just use pixel lock and use a darker color like this. Yeah, now it looks like a crease. Yeah, just like magic, it now looks like a crease. See that? And then that's about it. And you're just gonna adjust the shadow of the skin because the light isn't lighting. But yeah. And then because the skin is like tubular, you can also just add a little bit more shadow on the sides. Kind of like this. There you go. That's how you do it. It's surprisingly easy. And then if you wanna make it look like a little bit more pop, a little bit more anime-ish style, you can just use the function in CSP. It's a layer setting that you can add outlines. It looks rough because I kind of just dilly-dallied and did it in a rush, but there you go. There you go! That's how you do it. Very easy. Very simple. Wow! It looks like an actual thing!